Hi guys, welcome back to Sports with Mono and Mono. It's November 25th, 2023. Hope everybody had a good Thanksgiving. I did. And so Christmas tree in Rockefeller Center will be up this week. And then Santa Claus is coming to town. So let's jump right into it. Eli's join us in a moment. And of course, we start our show with the monologue, which is brought to you by Coriano Trucking of Summerhill, New York. Loyal listener, and as he noted last week, diehard Pittsburgh Steelers fan. So let's jump into the monologue this week, and it's you know how I've always been a proponent of some quality documentaries, and this one was as good. I was talking to Eli before the show, and um, he didn't even know who this guy, and unfortunately, he didn't get a chance to watch this guy play, and that's Barry Sanders. And there was a documentary on Amazon Prime about Sanders, and he's admired this guy. He was one of the best running backs of all time, literally of all time. I obviously it started with Jim Brown, is probably the best running back of all time, and then Walter Payton, and then Barry Sanders, and those are the top three. I mean, I had a favorite in Earl Campbell and so forth, but the whole documentary on this was he was a very reserved young man. I mean, he the backstory of it is his father was a diehard Oklahoma Sooners fan, and Barry decided he was going to Oklahoma State. And not to cause conflict with his father, but this is what this guy did. He knew what he wanted. He went there, and that's where he ended up. And you know what? He won the Heisman Trophy. And the guy is so humble and so classy. Like winning the Heisman Trophy wasn't even important to him. That's how um, selfless this guy was. And I got to recommend this highly to watch it. You're going to see some highlights of footage, Eli, that, if you haven't seen this documentary, please watch it because this guy was very unique and he was just a great kid. And there was always the controversy about him basically retiring in his prime. He was poised to break Walter Payton at the time, which Emmett Smith subsequently broke, and nothing taken away from Emmett Smith. But if I had to start a team with Emmett or Barry Sanders, it would be Barry Sanders. So it's a great story. Later, a team, the Detroit Lions, who are having a little resurrection, I guess, here, although they lost on Thanksgiving. But it's a great documentary. And I tell you, you know how I've always spoken about how important it is for me for the athlete that we watch and admire, not only for their skill at their particular sport, but for their off the field representation. And it just blew me away, and it solidified my opinion of Barry Sanders, and it blew the city of Detroit up when he retired. And but this is what this guy did. He just says it didn't feel right anymore, and that's the kind of selfless player he was. So highly recommended, and love to hear your thoughts. If you've seen it, send us an email at sportswithmono at gmail.com, or text a comment to us, because he was some kind of football player. And Eli, you got to watch it because
All
you're
right.
going to see some footage of one of the all time greats.
All right, I will. Sounds like a good documentary to watch,
Good.
so I'll be definitely looking out for it.
Oh, it was great. It really was. Really was.
All right.
Okay. So Eli, let's jump in. We got the NFL to talk about, right? We got
Yeah, we
we'll get
do.
to our picks in a little bit, but let's
Yes,
talk
indeed.
about some right. We had some Thanksgiving games this week,
Pretty
of
good ones
course, a
too.
triple header on Thanksgiving, right? We had the Packers upset the Detroit Lions.
Yes,
The
indeed.
Cowboys blew the Washington Commanders out of the stadium, and the
And as a
49ers took
Thanksgiving,
your team to task. So
yeah.
go ahead, Eli. Are we having technical issues here? Seems like we may be. Hold on. Eli's going to join us right back
We're
here.
having some technical issues and making sure that we're good on the YouTube part. Hold on.
Hey,
one
this is the
second.
internet.
It's the internet, yeah. Hold on 1 second. Yeah, you're back up. You're good. All right. Yeah, sorry
Yep,
about that. Yeah,
I
it looks
can
like
hear
there's
you
some
good.
internet issues. Yeah. Everything just started scrolling. All right. Yeah,
Okay.
so in regards to the Cowboys game, I was going to start about that one. It was a very good gift that the Cowboys gave. They fired the Cowboys led the Commanders to fire their defensive coordinator and Jack Del Rio and their defensive backs
Jack
coach.
Del Rio. Yep.
Yes, and Brent Vesselmeyer. So a little gift in return for winning the game for Cowboys. They let the Commanders
Yep.
fire 2 people. They work 9 to 5, as Dolly Parton's saying, and got them fired.
Yeah.
Well, the 9 to 5 song, whatever it is.
Well, like I said, I mean, the star of the show for the Dallas game was definitely Dolly Parton.
It was a good
Dressed
halftime
up
show.
in a Cowboys cheerleader's outfit at 77 years old. Right? Yeah.
Pretty impressed. The
It
music
was.
was
So,
good, though.
no
I
big
do admit, that
surprise
was a
there,
good halftime
except for
show.
the Packers beating the Lions, right? And
Yeah. I don't know if it's a
Right.
surprise because the Lions
so
have lost 7
the
straight
Packers beating the
Thanksgiving
Lions.
games. And I would say because they lost 7 straight Thanksgiving games, I don't know if this is
Yes,
really
they
like an
have.
upset. And
Yes,
then
they have.
the tradition needs to change around a little bit, I guess is the right word to say, because the Lions have been just horrible on Thanksgiving and they've continued to show it. Even at the best record possible, they still look to be a very bad team. So it really is going to
Oh,
be an interesting decision going forward. And like I said, it's finally the time for people to start waking up. If you really believed in the Lions, think again. They have not really done it yet. They still have a weak schedule coming up. They haven't beat a team that was truly over 500 after week 3. After
okay.
week 3. Remember, you cannot consider the Chiefs because that was only week 1. You have to consider that. They've only beat easy teams. How much can you really trust them come playoff time? I don't trust them, and I've said that time and time out. And clearly, this just proved the true answer. They just beat they just lost
Yep.
to the Packers, and previously they lost to the Seattle Seahawks because you have to beat them. So you can't beat them. And yeah,
I know. But listen, I will give a shout out because I've liked what I've seen in Jordan Love, and I think he's ultimately going to be a really good player in this league. So I know the Packers fans are gotta get used to the Rodgers not there anymore, but this has been,
this is a pretty good start.
A quarterback in the making for the past 3 years, and now he's got his chance. Yeah. So
Yeah, absolutely.
right, good stuff. Yeah, I was going to bring up Del Rio got fired. I mean, the whole Washington Commanders situation, it's a mess. That team is in
Well,
complete
I'm so glad.
disarray. Ron Rivera will be fired
Yep.
at the end of the season.
So will Bill Belichick be the new coach for the Commanders, or is he going to go to Los Angeles? That's a good question to ask right now. And the second thing you have to keep in mind as well, that in regards to the Washington Commanders, I've said it from the beginning. It doesn't matter who the GM or the owner is, no matter who shows up, the franchise is just doomed. They have never changed. They changed one GM, and there still has been no difference made yet. I don't see the command. Look at the Commanders right now, where they are with the new GM and everything. This is absolutely a joke what they've been doing so far. So I just can't imagine what's going to happen next year. Obviously, if you don't count them this year, what is the future going to hold for this team?
I agree 100%.
And now we're looking at playoff pictures. We're in week 12 already, adding to week 13. We're looking at playoff pictures. Who is going to stay at the number 1 spot? You have the Ravens fighting for number 1. You have the Eagles at number 1 for the NFC. It's a really good race coming up in that AFC and NFC. Jim, you're up.
Well, in the NFC is even I think a little bit more Eagles, and you got the Cowboys, and it's going to be one of those 3 teams. And in the AFC, like I said, with Burrow out, that may take them off out of the running. But Patrick Mahomes is still there, and the Ravens are good. But if I'm going to take a flyer on what quarterback I put my money on, it's going to be Patrick Mahomes and not Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
And you can't do the
So,
Cincinnati Bengals anymore because Joe
um,
Burrow is out for the season. So you got to now eliminate them from what should have been a good playoff run for them this year.
Yep. Yeah. All right. I hope
Yeah.
this isn't being too choppy here. I hope it's coming through good on YouTube or Facebook. So send
Yeah,
us
I'm
a
listening
comment
to it right
if
now.
we're having some issues with joining the zone.
Yeah, I'm listening right now on YouTube. So far, everything's okay. Some choppiness, but not too bad right now. I'll keep listening too.
Okay. Good. All right.
All right.
All right. So let's move into picks from last week. Eli, you were 2-1. Good bounce back week for you.
Second
You had a
straight.
couple of rough weeks there. Me, I know. So I was actually 1-2, right?
Yeah.
So I only won on Buffalo, which was pretty easy against the Jets because that franchise is an absolute mess. We'll talk about
Yeah.
that in a little bit. Right.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
maybe it wasn't Zach Wilson after all. And one point I want to
No.
make, because everybody kept talking, it was, yes, the offense was going to be Aaron Rodgers, and Aaron Rodgers was going to lead these guys to the Super Bowl because the Jets defense is the best in the league. And I keep telling people, hey, the defense is giving up 30 points every single week. Where's this great defense we're talking about here? So this hasn't all been Zach Wilson's fault. I think the defense has given up more points than they should have, even though, yes, the offense is futile. And Tim Boyle's obviously not going to be the answer, but I think we may have seen the last of Zach Wilson in New York. This is a guy that has no command of the team. He has no involvement when the game is going on and so forth. And he's just not the right guy. And you could hang it on Nathaniel Hackett as well. But you know what? Aaron Rodgers is protecting Nathaniel Hackett because that's his guy. And but he's not getting it done without a Hall of Fame quarterback. So a lot going on in Jets world.
Yeah, well, I could say with this for the Jets world and the Jets side, it finally proved the point that no matter who the quarterback is, that offensive line needs to change. It doesn't matter if Zach Wilson's a quarterback or Tim Boyle. It doesn't seem that there's going to be any change in regards to those matters. What I can say is, even if Aaron Rodgers was here right now, I don't think that the Jets would be at the level that they expect to be, and that is because of their offensive line. Aaron Rodgers, don't get me wrong, is a great quarterback, one of the best, greatest of all time, but you have to realize this Jets offensive line needs some changing, and they need to change pretty big. And I think that's going to be the struggle heading into the rest of the way. And and of course, they just announced moments ago, before we went on about a half hour ago, that Tim Boyle will get a second chance and will start next week, according to Robert Saleh. So that will be an interesting test. It's going to be fun to see. Will this be a helpful decision, or should we just go back to Zach Wilson until Rodgers returns? Because it's an interesting slate of games. You have the Falcons next week, and then you have the Texans and the Dolphins, two great teams after the Falcons. So that's something to keep in mind about. And Bijan Robinson, who is getting back into the win column once in a while. So it's going to be a very interesting slate of games. They have one more primetime game left of Thursday Night Football. Yeah. So it should be an interesting schedule, an interesting road that they will be facing upcoming.
Yeah, and yesterday, like the Jets-Dolphins game was the first Black Friday game of the NFL season. So don't think that's going to go away. They're going to be doing that again, of course.
Absolutely.
Making you pay for it on Amazon Prime instead of putting it on regular television.
Well, they did have it.
To me,
drives
me nuts.
Yesterday's game,
you know that.
Well, I just want to say this real quick. If your team is yeah, you can have a local coverage. So because the Jets are on TV, because the Jets are playing, the local coverage is available on Fox. So each area has it differently. I know Baltimore has it on ABC when Prime Video is playing. Yes. So it all depends. So really, it all depends. Yeah, it should be now. It's gonna be streaming. But
so if it was, let's say it was.
Yep. What were you saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, so it depends on the team.
Are you saying if it was Baltimore versus? Okay, that I didn't know, but it was on Channel 5 locally here. So
yes. So basically, if the local team has to have broadcasted on their television. So basically, for the Giants and Jets, their local area would be Fox. That's where they have to broadcast all the prime
Yep.
video games. So if
Yep.
you're in Baltimore, instead of Fox, it's ABC. So it all depends on the market, and it
Right.
also depends on what's playing. So
Right.
like here, Wheel of Fortune Jeopardy is on ABC. That's different in each area. So if you're in Baltimore, that could be a whole different channel. That could be on CBS, TNT, one of those other channels, not ABC. And that's why they give the game to ABC. So it all depends on the market.
Right. Okay. Got
Yeah.
it. All right, so let's do our picks, Eli. We got 3
Yes,
games
indeed.
this week. We're picking. All right, so game 1, Cleveland at Denver, and again,
Yep.
This is Denver. Russell Wilson and Sean Payton are having kind of a resurgence. I
Yeah.
like their chances. I think Cleveland is not the team. I mean, the defense and Garrett, no question about it. Garrett's one of the best players in the league, without question. But I'm going with Denver this week on that pick, and because Sean Payton's got a lot to prove, and he wants to get back on the side of 500.
Yeah.
Second game, Kansas City versus the Las Vegas Raiders. And listen, so the Las Vegas Raiders started out after they fired their coach, hired Antonio Pierce. They won their first 2 games, then they subsequently followed that up with losing the next 2 games. And this is not going to be any different. Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes. That's all I could say. So I'm taking them over the Vegas Raiders. And the game 3, and this is for one of my brothers who says we don't pick tough games. Well, here's a game I think is tough and might be surprised at my selection. So Buffalo is playing at Philadelphia, right? So all the money is obviously going to be on Philadelphia and their home. And I still have this hope for Buffalo that they're going to right this ship a little bit.
Yeah.
So I look for them to pull off an upset win in Philadelphia. That's my pick. Denver, Kansas City, and Buffalo.
All right.
Eli,
Before I make my
you
picks,
have the floor, my friend.
Before I make my picks, comments from Jeremy D. Bennett, Get Better Stevie, and Jaden Daniels is going to go off today. That is his comments. Now to my picks. Oh, and so sick of Michigan, Ohio State. Yeah. Number 1 teams and going at it.
Oh, no, Jeremy. Thank you for the comments. But Michigan, Ohio State is a mainstay for Steven and I for 50 years. And today's no different. 11-0 teams. We'll talk about that in a little bit when we get to college football.
Yeah. So let me get to my
Give
picks.
me your picks for the week.
I'm going to take the Cleveland Browns over the Denver Broncos. All good things must come to an end, and that is going to be the Denver Broncos winning streak. So I'm going to take the Broncos to Browns to win 21-18. Chiefs Raiders, Kansas City in favor by 10. Give me the Chiefs 30-15. You cannot trust the Raiders, but I can trust Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. They dropped a lot of balls last week, but unfortunately, they'll be able to bounce back this week and collect a victory versus the Kansas City Chiefs, the Las Vegas Raiders.
Okay.
And finally, the Bills Eagles. I am going to take Fly Eagles Fly, Philadelphia Eagles, 28-25. They're going to continue to stay number 1.
Okay.
Josh Allen cannot continue to win against tough teams. I don't see them winning anytime soon against this Philadelphia Eagles team in the city of brotherly love of Philadelphia. So I'm going to take the Browns, Chiefs, and Eagles. Eagles 28-25. And also, I'll get to some news topics real quick before we move off from the NFL. The Seahawks 49ers game had 585,000 views. The CBS game for Thanksgiving was the most watched game with 49 million views, probably because of Dolly Parton. And that was pretty interesting. Talona Hufanga suffered an ACL injury versus the 49ers last week. The Jets will start, obviously, Tim Boyle. That was next week, so that's going to be some interesting news. Jarek Reed tore an ACL for the Seattle Seahawks during the Rams game last week. Jerry Jones is inducting Jimmy Johnson into the Cowboys Ring of Honor next week on December 30th. So that is some pretty good news to say. Cowboys fined the NFL fined Cowboys Novelli Gallimore $9,754, and that was because of unnecessary roughness versus the Giants game. The Steelers are moving on from offensive coordinator Matt Canada. Joe Flacco signing with the Browns. Kareem Jackson, suspended once more, is now testifying that a statement. The Denver-Houston game will now be moved to the early slot on CBS. Panthers-Bucks will now move to the late window for CBS. 1.9 million view. It was a pretty good night for the Eagles and the Chiefs game. Good views all around for ESPN, setting company records and also Walt Disney company records. Colts releasing Shaquille Leonard and further test on Ravens' Mark Andrews, showing ankle injury isn't as bad as they expect. So that is some pretty good news, and those are the NFL news topics to watch out for.
I'll give one other note because Deron Bland for the Cowboys had his 5th pick 6, an all-time NFL
indeed.
record.
I forgot to mention that.
You got to give him credit for that, right?
Yes, and that was a great call by Jim Nantz, the one of the greatest.
So let's go to college football.
Yes.
So let's go to college football because it's a big day, and I know Jeremy. I don't know. It's Michigan, Ohio State. Doesn't get any better than that as far as Steve and I are
two number one
concerned.
teams.
2-11.
Give me Ohio State.
Teams, and this is a big game. Big game for Ryan Day. That's for sure. He's got to start beating Michigan.
Huge day.
We'll see how that goes. So that's at noon. Florida State. It's kind of rivalry day. So it's Ohio State, Michigan. It's Florida, Florida State. It's Georgia, Georgia Tech. All those kind of games. This is the after Thanksgiving matchups. And one note about Oregon beat Oregon State the other night, so they're going to have a rematch with Washington in the Pac-12 championship game, which in all likelihood will determine who's going to win the Heisman Trophy, either Bo Nix or Michael Penix. And I'm going to go with Oregon on that thing. I think they actually outplayed Washington the first time they met, but they're going to meet up again for the championship.
Yeah, I would say that.
Yeah, who's the big one? The LSU quarterback got hurt, right?
Yeah, let me get the name. Travis something. LSU quarterback. Jaden Daniels.
Travis. Jaden Daniels is Florida State, right? Yeah.
No, yeah, hold on. LSU quarterback Jaden Daniels left Saturday's game against the Alabama Crimson Tide after taking a brutal hit from the Dallas Turner.
Yeah, but the Florida State quarterback got knocked out. That was Jaden Daniels, maybe. Or Jordan Travis, I think that's who it was.
Yeah, November 5th. That's too late. Maybe in Florida State.
Travis Jordan. That's who.
Travis Jordan. Okay, there it is.
Yeah. And you know what? You know what? That actually that moved Washington into the
race.
CFP Final Four. So and they said that had no impact on the committee's decision. But come on, they lost the potential Heisman Trophy candidate. That's a big loss for Florida State. That's for sure.
Absolutely. Huge decision.
All right, Eli, you got anything else for college football?
There's one actually note. Notre Dame has extended its contract with NBC and will be continuing to broadcast their games on NBC/Peacock until the 2029 season. So yeah, quick note there.
Yep, that's been there for years and years and years. Okay.
And the contract is extended. Yep.
All right, good stuff. Good football Saturday.
Yeah, it is. Another great Saturday, great Thursday, Friday, and a big one tomorrow for the NFL.
Yeah, we like it. So let's move on to college basketball real quick, right?
All right.
We're in the midst of the early season tournaments, right, out in Maui and so forth. And one of the big shockers was Marquette knocking off Kansas in their tournament. That was a big win for Marquette. They're becoming a powerhouse again under Shaka Smart. So
yes, indeed.
But you still got the Purdue's and the Gonzagas are the teams really to to keep an eye on early in the season. Yeah, so college basketball is starting to ramp
things
up a
up.
little bit, and I like that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, I don't mind watching college
Yeah.
basketball. I mean, I get more into it though when it comes to the March Madness and the finals and everything. That's more my specialty with college basketball. Like right now, it's like, you follow one team, not really go into it like call it a March
Yeah.
Madness. That's a special time.
I know. Yeah, I know. March Madness is awesome. I can't wait till we have our March Madness predictions, coming down the road. But
We're gonna do
still
the
a
bracket
couple months
challenge, I
away
guess.
from that.
Or I guess we'll do a
Yeah, we'll
bracket challenge.
figure it
I have to
out.
get the.
We'll do it.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. We got 3 months for that.
Right.
Only December next week.
Eli versus Jim in their brackets. Let's see how it
Yeah,
goes.
see a big
That's
battle.
right.
We'll get the marker or Xing things out.
Just a couple of quick things. So listen, also on the women's side, college basketball, a lot of controversy going on in LSU with Angel Reese and so forth. She's missed 3 games. And as a matter of fact, LSU crushed my Niagara Lady Purple Eagles the other night by 30 points without Angel Reese. But I don't know what's going on there.
Yeah.
We'll see. And also, UConn lost last night, right? And
Yes.
we're not used to hearing UConn losing,
UConn
very
losing,
often.
It's a shock.
And they got beat again. Yeah, they lost to UCLA, who, by the way, today, UCLA is playing the aforementioned Niagara Lady Purple Eagles. How about that?
Something special.
But here's the thing with Connecticut, right? Aziz Fudd, who was like probably next big star at UConn. They always have one. I mean, they still have Paige Beckers, but she's out for the season. So that's a big loss for the UConn Husky perennial powerhouse women's college basketball team.
Yeah, pretty big.
Oh, and Eli, one other thing I wanted to bring up in college basketball, right?
Yeah.
And this was on the it was Mississippi Valley State versus South Carolina. Now, South Carolina's, I think, the defending champs, actually. Yeah. But they played Mississippi Valley State and won by a score of 101 to 19. I mean,
wow.
Imagine that. A college basketball program only scoring 19 points, right?
That is something you don't see every day. That's something like you see in like grammar school basketball, awesome. Maybe high school if you're lucky, depending on the who's playing. But yeah, wow, that's an interesting slate.
That's my point, right?
Yeah.
All right, so we got a lot of stuff going on there in college football, college basketball, the NFL we touched on, the NHL. The Rangers are still hot. They played this afternoon against Boston after beating Philadelphia on the road yesterday afternoon. So they got a back-to-back day. How are your Devils doing? I was more interested.
They lost yesterday to the Blue Jackets 2-1. They're now 8-9-1. A tough start. Heischer's not been playing. Timo Meyer's also not been playing. He's been going in and out. Tonight's a big matchup because tonight's Hockey Fights Cancer Night for the New Jersey Devils. They host the Sabres at 7 o'clock. Obviously, it's a special time. We all hope to end cancer, and that's a special way to honor hockey. The pregame's in purple jerseys usually. So should be a special night, special moment. And go Devils tonight as they take on the Sabres. Hopefully they can get a win and bounce back. If not, we're gonna have a lot of issues because it's not the start we want. A lot of losses and a lot of guys, getting onto the hurt column. And this could be the end sooner or later to Lindy Ruff's coaching time with the Devils, if not to something with the Devils, because a lot of people are not happy on the social medias and on top of everything going on. And the goalies have obviously been a struggle as well.
I know, but let's not panic because it's an 81 game season.
Right, I agree. Don't worry, I'm not panicking. I'm just saying what the people else are saying. Like I know there are a lot of people.
Ruff is fine for now.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
I apologize, folks, if we're having these.
Yes, we're sorry.
Across choppy. I don't know what we can.
There's nothing we can do.
Yeah,
It's just
not like
our
us. It's just unfortunate.
just the cable companies,
Yeah.
not ours.
It is.
Nothing we can do.
I got you. So a couple other things. So we covered that the NBA they're playing this in-season tournament, which is absolutely meaningless to me.
The only thing I think I like about this in-season tournament is the way the courts came
I
out.
don't even understand what it's supposed to accomplish. We talked about.
I think the only thing I like about the in-season tournament is not the games
Yeah, they
itself
were
and not
kind
the
of
meaning
cool.
of it.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
the courts, the way they've designed it, I think that was pretty cool. Other than that, that was pretty much it. Like I know the Knicks had a really cool one yesterday when they played their tournament in the Garden.
Yeah, I bet they keep.
But yeah, I wish they
Yeah.
could keep them, but they
They
can't.
were,
They got to
they
go
were
back to the
down by
hardwood
like
one.
21 points and they came back and beat the
Yeah.
Heat.
They beat the Heat.
Right. All right. So listen, a couple other things. NBA, we'll get to that down the road, but right now there's
Nothing to talk about now.
nothing doing there. Signing season and really no big moves there other than the Phillies paying Aaron Nola
Yes, that was a pretty. I
$107
was just
million
going to mention that.
for a 7-year contract. And we keep talking about these contracts that these pitchers get, and the shelf life of a pitcher, aside from an exception like Garrett Cole, who seems to never get injured and so forth, and won the Cy Young Award. That's a lot of money for a pitcher. And
Absolutely.
we're
Huge.
going to talk about the free agent signing and what Ohtani's going to get and all that kind of stuff. A lot of work
Yeah,
to be done on the
absolutely.
Mets and Yankees side of the diamond, right?
Yeah.
But one other thing while we're on baseball, so the Baseball Hall of Fame nominees came up, and this is
Yes.
always
This is
a
your specialty.
favorite topic of mine about who should get in, who shouldn't get in.
And who
So here's a
shouldn't. Yep.
couple names on the list. Right. So I'm going to read these down. Adrian Beltre, Joe Mauer, Chase Utley, David Wright, Jose Bautista. Now, of
Okay.
all of those guys, I think the only one, and again, not that I even think that this guy should be a first ballot Hall of Famer, but he was a good player and had a great career. Almost 500 home runs and won a lot of Gold Gloves. That's Adrian Beltre. All the other guys,
Yeah.
and when we look at the overall selection of whether somebody goes into the Hall of Fame, you have to base it on their career and not for a period of time. For example, like Don Mattingly was one of the best players in the game for 3 or 4 years, and then he had back trouble, so he's not in the Hall of Fame. And it has to play out for this. Like an example is Joe Mauer, who at one point in time, former batting champ, had 3 great years with Minnesota. They paid him a lot of money, but Hall of Fame? No, I don't think so. David Wright, same thing for the Mets. Great player for the Mets, good numbers career-wise, but Hall of Fame? No. Chase Utley, same thing. So I don't know. I'd love for you guys to comment, and I know we get a listener, one of our loyal listeners, Jim Walsh from Long Island. He makes sure that when we read the names down, we say yes or no. And in this case, I'll say Beltre yes, and I'll say everybody else no. So we'd love to hear your thoughts, comments. Send us a comment during the show, or
Wow.
of course, an email at sportswithmano
That's all I could say is just wow. Yeah, interesting list and interesting topics and interesting people nominated. I would say I agree with your list and saying yes or no. So we'll see the future. All right.
Okay.
So we're having.
I appreciate it. And Beltre played the only player to play more games at third base than Adrian Beltre was Brooks Robinson, who we said a few ago as he passed away, right?
Yeah. Right.
Okay, so that's our take on baseball. Let's move on. We got some random points of interest this week, and Eli, as I kind of mentioned, I thought he was on the hot seat, and he was fired. Dino Babers from Syracuse was let go. And of course, this is sponsored by Lynch Toyota of Manchester, Connecticut, longtime sponsor of the show. So here's the tie-in back to us from the Syracuse thing. So Babers gets fired, and Nunzio Campanelli, tight ends coach at Syracuse, former Bergen Catholic, former interim head coach at Rutgers, takes the helm for the last game of the season for Syracuse. So I had an opportunity to meet Nunzio last year at a St. Joe's game and had a good opportunity to talk to him. He's all about football. And the irony here is there is an opening. Is a college football coach more prominent than a powerhouse high school football team? Well, that would be worth St. Joe's looking at Nunzio. But the kicker there is his brother is the head coach of Bergen Catholic. So there could be some dinner table discussions regarding recruiting. So wanted to bring that up. Max Van Steppen, because we talked about the Las Vegas Grand Prix last week, and we've been talking about this guy all along. He goes out and wins the big race, right? All the quote unquote A-listers come out for this to get put on television, but he wins again, keeps piling on his record for most Formula One wins in one season. And one other thing, guess who's coming back? Tiger Woods. So he's going to be playing in the PNC Championship with his son Charlie, right? So he hasn't played competitive golf for, since he had to withdraw from the Masters this past year, but he looks good. He's 48 years old now, but he's coming to a possibility if he can stay healthy.
Yeah. I'm going to bring up two quick random points here myself. Jimmy Kimmel will be back to host 96 Academy Awards, aka the Oscars for 2024. And Ryan Seacrest will once again host the Dick Clark's New Year's Rockin' Eve show celebration on ABC, and it will remain on ABC Network until 2029 with a new contract extension to bring your way into the holidays. So yeah, those are my two random points. They're very random today.
Okay, those are random. Random.
That's why it's called Random Points, and that's why it's sponsored by Lynch Toyota.
So Eli, one other thing. Okay, I got you. All good. So we got the high school championships at MetLife Stadium this week. There's two big games:
indeed.
DePaul versus Red Bank Catholic, right? And that's Tuesday night at 5:00 at MetLife Stadium, followed by kind of the game that everyone's hoping to see, right? It's number 1 versus number 2. Bergen Catholic versus Del Barton. That should be a good game. I'm making my picks. My grandson wants to go to that taking game for some reason.
Bergen Catholic and DePaul. Those are my winners. DePaul and Bergen Catholic. Those are my winners.
All right. Well, I'm just going to say Bergen Catholic is the team to beat. They are the number 1 team. But do not dismiss a possibility of an upset by Del Barton. They're a really outstanding defensive football team. And
what are your picks?
I agree with you on the other one. I think DePaul will handle Red Bank Catholic without much.
Well, we have there. Both for DePaul. I have Bergen Catholic. He has Del Barton. That is our picks for high school football, in case anybody's interested. We make football picks all the time. This is another one that we do.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
That's what we do. So Eli, I don't know if you had one, but I have a movie recommendation for this week, and it's Jerry Maguire, Tom Cruise movie with Cuba Gooding Jr. Have you ever seen it?
No, but I heard of Tom Cruise, so I'm sure.
Have you seen it?
No, I have not. So tell me a little bit about that movie.
It's
not really a movie, you guys.
It's a great movie. It's he's a sports agent, and he has kind of a falling out and goes on his own, and his only client is the best player in in football, and it's kind of funny, and I'm sure it's exactly how it goes down in real life with these guys and the agents and the contracts that they're looking to get. And it's a
Yeah.
great movie. It came out in 1996, which I'm surprised about, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's funny and it's kind of to the point. I highly recommend that. And just a Rudy check. Has Eli watched Rudy yet? You remember your homework assignment from our sponsor, right?
Not yet. I'm working on it. It'll get done. Homework will get
Eli,
done.
you have to do that. You have to do it.
Yep.
Hey, especially
All right.
because one of our producers, Rob, was at the game last week, the Notre Dame game, and
Yeah.
he had the time of his life. I can tell. So,
Yeah.
Rob, congratulations on attending your first game at South Bend. It's on my
Indiana.
bucket list, so hopefully I get an opportunity to do the same thing. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, Eli, before we move on to our notable passings, you had mentioned to us before the show that we're working on
Yes,
a
there is
guest
a
for next week, and hopefully
possibility.
we could work that out.
Yes, there is a possibility. Still going to confirm the details after tomorrow's game. Working on getting possibly Ben Fennell, who is a producer for the NFL on Prime Video and CBS with Iron Eagles crew, as well as a reporter for the Philadelphia
Yes.
Eagles during training camp. So I am working on getting all the details finalized, but there is a possibility that we will have him on next week on Sports with Mano Mano. Pretty good guy is willing to do it. So we are going to working on the details, but
That
possibility
would
for
be
next
great.
week. So stay tuned for that. Should be a great guy to get on the show. So please join us next week. We will more than likely have him on next week.
And
Yeah.
let's also note that Mr. Fennell is a Emmy Award winning producer
Yes.
of the National Football League, and he's a quote unquote a researcher. So he's an X's and O's guy, which I love, and I can't wait to have a conversation with him about some of the things going on in the NFL, some of the things about what we've talked about having to pay for these games now on Prime
Yeah.
and so
Obviously.
forth, and look at hopefully.
Yeah. So it should be pretty fun to watch, and hopefully we'll have a lot of conversation for him. There's a lot on his X account / Twitter, formerly Twitter, where you can get a lot of details. He really goes in depth on talking about all the plays and everything. So go ahead, check out his Twitter or X account if you have it, or sign up for it, because it's definitely worth looking at what he has and the detail he provides in doing the X's and O's for each little clip or very important play. So take a look at his Twitter X/Twitter account. Yeah.
Absolutely, no question about it. Hopefully, we can have that, and if not, we'll
hope for the
have
next.
to push it out a little bit. But I think he's gonna be happy to be on our show.
Absolutely. Yep. We have a photo as well.
We move on to the.
We have a photo. You got a photo you'd like to share?
And like I said, this had to do with. Bring it up.
Yeah, here it is.
Well, listen, because it was Thanksgiving. This is Ralph and Alice Cramden sitting at the same table. If you go around the table, those are all characters Mooner's favorite shows. So I thought it was appropriate to have this put on.
I honestly thought looking at.
So again, I hope everybody had as good a Thanksgiving as I did.
Looking at this, I honestly thought this was like former presidents or people that are part of historical figures. This was like historical figures presidents. That's what looking at these people. It looked like Obama at the corner there, where week 12 is at right now. It looked like some CEO to the left. Look like historical figures from the angle I saw in the beginning. I was like, okay, wow, on the notable passings, I guess.
Well, listen, if you're not a Honeymooners fan, it's a great show, one of the funniest of all time from the 50s, and all the people around the table were characters on those 39 original episodes. So I thought it was appropriate for Thanksgiving, right?
Yes, indeed.
All right, Eli, this is where we move on to our notable passing segment.
The saddest part of the show.
I think first on the list, you and I talked about it, was the first name that came right up was Rosalind Carter, former First Lady, married 77 years to former President Jimmy Carter, and she was really just a classy, giving person, and that
Yeah.
was a big loss for the Carter family, and she was exemplified what a First Lady should be. She was a special person, no
Absolutely.
question about it. 96 years old too. So I think very shortly, they've been married so long that ultimately, what's going to happen, right? Jimmy Carter is going to be following right behind her because
Unfortunately.
he's been in ailing health for a long time anyway.
Yeah, unfortunately, we have to say that. Yeah.
Anyway, 69, former Cy Young, MVP, and World Series winner for the 84 Detroit Tigers. And the year he was virtually unhittable. And there's only been one other pitcher to be the Cy Young, MVP, and win a World Series in the same season, and that was Sandy Koufax, who I think everyone might have heard. Diego Cruz, thank you.
Yeah, he said
I
Happy Thanksgiving
appreciate
from
that.
Diego. And Jeremy
Happy
made a comment
Thanksgiving to
earlier.
you and your family.
Jeremy made a
And
comment
Jeremy?
earlier. I didn't read it when we were posting all the comments. I didn't see this one. He said Buffalo gonna win. That's what he said. Buffalo's gonna win for the picks
Okay.
that we made for the NFL.
There's a man that knows what he's talking about because I picked Buffalo too.
We'll see what happens tomorrow afternoon. We'll see that Eli's right.
All right.
Sorry, Jeremy and Jim. Gotta listen to Eli. But we'll see what happens tomorrow.
I got it. All right. So also, like Willie Hernandez, like I said, the season he had in the World Series that they brought to Detroit was memorable. And there's two other pitchers. I think it was Bob Gibson and it's escaping me. That was Cy Young and MVP, but they didn't win the World Series that year like Willie Hernandez did. And Eli, just heard one today. Former New York Mets catcher Ron Hodges, 74 years old, passed away. And I remember watching Ron Hodges play. He was kind of a utility backup player for the Mets. Back in, obviously, it'd probably be the mid 70s to the late 70s, possibly early 80s, but 74 years old. And like I said, I remember watching him play. And, like I said, 74. And Eli, I got one more that I wanted to bring up, and this is kind of sad because it's very, very close to my heart. Rocco Rodin, former offensive lineman for St. Joe's, and that's my team. And he was actually killed in a street attack in New York City last week. And
yes, I forgot about that. That happened. Yeah.
The violence just doesn't stop in that city.
No.
Terrible.
It's horrible.
Yeah, 17 years old. He was from Somerset, New Jersey, and but a member of the St. Joe's family. And when you lose somebody like that at that young age, 17 years old, it hits.
It hits.
Really is. So
and that hurts.
But, they'll be hosting a prayer service for Rocco on Monday, and St. Joe's had a press release regarding this. So a terrible tragedy, and it affects all us St. Joe's alumni as well as current members. So big loss there. So Eli, we covered a lot of stuff today. Hopefully a lot of it came through. I know
Yes, I believe most of it came through. A little bit was choppy, but other than that, we made. Yeah, we made it through.
Yeah. So okay, good. So I'm gonna have an opportunity to have lunch today with guess who?
Yes.
The guy sitting to my Eli. Right?
Yep, to the left, and to me, all right.
And David Weintraub as well.
Yes.
Looking forward to meeting both you and your dad in person. Because we got a show going here. We're getting more and more listeners, and I appreciate all the comments and emails that we get from folks. And Jeremy, thank you. I had an opportunity to see Steve yesterday, and it's great to see him as well. And he
We gotta
sends
get
his
him back on
regards.
soon.
And again, I hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving. What's that,
He's
Eli?
gotta make. I say he's got to make an appearance soon. Your brother.
Yeah. Yep. I'm
gotta get
working
back
on
on.
it. That would be
Yeah.
Oh.
Even if he even just say hello,
That'd be
it'd be
great.
great to just great, and everybody will be happy.
all right. So we covered a lot of ground today.
Yeah.
Yep. We covered a lot of ground today. And again, please send us your comments and like I said, this is a weekly thing that both he and I both take very. Sometimes it's hit home that sports is just sports and life is bigger than sports. But
Yes.
everybody, you guys hope you had a great Thanksgiving. Thanks for joining
We
us,
did.
and we'll see you guys same time next week.
See ya.
Saturday
Saturday, 10 o'clock. Hopefully with Ben Fennel.
at 10 o'clock, right?
Yep. Hopefully with Ben.
We'll catch up to you. Thank you.
Yep. Have a good one, everyone.